Converted Man here, and today I'm gonna be looking at a video from Fred Savage. Yeah, Fred Savage. Quite amazing. I didn't know he was a Christian, but an apologist. But yeah, he is. You know, the Wonder Years dude. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's this guy right here. He's that good. He's the same. They're the same person. Totally the same. I'm not wrong. Prove wrong. So yeah, same guy, same dude. Anyways, or he's related. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, all right. That no. But seriously though, so this is from Thomas or Cahill, Thomas Kill. I don't know. Cahill. I'm not sure how to say that last name. I'm gonna mispronounce it throughout the video to be funny. He's got the argument for God for morality explained. Okay. All right. Here we go. He's going to explain this argument really well. I'm sure there's not going to be anything that he gets wrong. It's going to be completely valid and sound. It's going to make perfect sense. We're all going to believe in God. And which God? I don't know. It's just God. Doesn't matter what God. His channel doesn't even say which God he believes in, per se. It just says, bringing complex philosophical discussions to the average person. New video on God's existence every week. I don't know which God. I have no idea. Whatever. Doesn't matter, I guess. As long as it's a God. All right.
In third grade, my teacher taught my class about a distinction between facts and opinions. A fact, she said, is something that's true for everyone, while an opinion is something that's only true for some people. The sky is blue. The earth is round. 2 + 2 = 4.
Now, the sky sometimes is blue. The earth is an obloid spheroid. And 2 + 2 does equal 4, but 2 and 2 is 22. It just depends upon your arrangement of words and how you use them. But what's interesting about all of those things that you mentioned is they're all demonstrably demonstratable. They can be proven in various different methodologies. So I'm sure that whatever it is you're about to tell us will also be demonstratable and beyond any shadow of doubt. You won't just simply assert that things are true. No, you will demonstrate, like you could demonstrate 2 + 2 is 4 very simply. It's not that difficult to do. You could demonstrate that the sky happens to be a shade of a particular color on any given day at a specific location. That also could be done. So I'm sure that whatever it is you're about to say about morality is something they could show us to be true, right?
These are facts. They're true, and if someone disagrees with them, then we can say, you're wrong. But statements like vanilla ice cream is better than chocolate ice cream are opinions.
Yes, and pineapple on pizza is perfectly fine, and anyone that disagrees is wrong. That's right. I'm a pineapple on pizza guy. Oh man, I just lost all of my subscribers. I was kidding. That was a joke. Come back.
Not necessarily true or false, and people can disagree with them. So here's my question for you. Statements about right and wrong, moral statements, are these facts or opinions?
Yes, is my answer. I will say yes, because that will put you in a conundrum that you haven't thought about. What if they're both? What if some are facts and some are opinions? Could they be a mixture of both? What if that's the case? What if some are facts but others are opinions? Then what? How do you differentiate the two? But if you're going to say that something is a fact, okay, great. Then you need to demonstrably demonstrate that it's a fact and not an opinion.
This question forms the basis for one of the most popular arguments for the existence of God, the argument from morality, or as I'm calling it in this video, the argument from moral realism. Because what this argument tries to
Why didn't you name your video that then? Oh, well, whatever.
show is that at least some moral statements must be facts, not opinions. And because of this, God must exist. Well, how do you figure that? The first thing this argument needs to show is that at least some moral statements can't be opinions and therefore must be facts.
But wouldn't it be insufficient to show that just some are? Because when they all have to be it, so if you find one thing that's a fact, that would be enough for you to think that that proved God. I don't know. Your bar of proof is lower than mine, I suppose.
And there's a couple ways it tries to do this, but I'm just going to focus in on one of them. And that's the idea that opinions aren't binding and at least some moral statements are. When I tell you that I think vanilla ice cream is better than chocolate ice cream, I'm not necessarily asking you to agree with me. If you told me that you think chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream, I'm not gonna fight you on that.
Yeah, you are. Okay, what if I told you that objectively chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream? It's just the truth. That is the way it is. That is the sum total of reality. That's just how it is. That's the objective truth. And that's it. That's all I did. I just said it. I didn't prove it to you. I didn't indicate how it was true, how I derived that it was true. I could even say, yes, God said that chocolate is better than vanilla. And then that makes that true, right?
At least not in seriousness. I might do it as a joke. But if you said that you disagree with me when I say the earth is round, I'm going to say, no, you're wrong. We can know that the earth is round through what we see of the world.
Ah, well, you haven't discussed anything with a flat earther. I tell you, it's no fun. Obloid spheroid is the correct terminology. Yes, we can know it, not just by pure observation, but in many other methodologies that we have at our disposal, various ways to test it. Yes, we can demonstrate that it's an obloid spheroid, although there will be a few nitwits who don't want to agree with those observations because they have a belief that they'd rather stick with. So, that's an interesting phenomenon, but nonetheless, you could indeed show the evidence. So, what is the evidence that these moral statements are true?
Or if you said you disagree with me when I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, I'm going to say, no, we can know that 2 plus 2 equals 4 from what we know about mathematics. So these things must be true. In the same way, when I make the statement, murder is wrong, if you disagree with that, I'm going to say, no, we can know that murder is wrong. It's just true that murder is wrong.
Okay, so notice how he's just saying, this thing is wrong. We just know that it's wrong. That's not proof. That's not a justification. That is not a fact. That is something that you are saying. So, murder is illegal killing of some other human. So, if no killing of any human is illegal, then there wouldn't be murder. So, you couldn't do that wrong thing. So, if killing humans was perfectly legal, then there is no murder because murder's essentially only a thing when it is illegal. So, that's subject to the whim of the government that is over you, or the system that is over you. So since what murder is or isn't is subject to the whims of government, then that's not objective, is it? So when you declare that murder is wrong, you haven't proven that it's so. You just said it's the case. And you can show me how 1 plus 1 equals true via how math works. You can show that sky appears to be whatever color at a given location. Those can be demonstrated, but you offer zero demonstration to show that murder is wrong. You can't just say, we know that it's wrong. You must demonstrate that it's wrong.
So what you're saying is wrong. And if you try to act on that wrong belief that murder is okay, then society is going to stop you by putting you in prison because we recognize that the statement murder is wrong is just as true as the statement 2 plus 2 equals 4. Murder isn't like ice cream flavors. You can't hold different opinions on it. It's just true that murder is wrong.
And what murder is different in different locations. and the severeness of a murder, it also changes, and of course the terminology changes. So there's homicide, and then there's deliberate and accidental homicide. If you run over somebody, you weren't paying attention, or somebody jumped out at, and you didn't see them, whatever. These are all not considered murder. They're killing, but and then it's not wrong because it's not illegal. Although it's a problem that it happened. We want to deal with that, but basically it's all subjective. So that means that you have a subjective whim of what murder is and no demonstration of the statement. So those are more reasons to doubt the claims that you're making.
This means that at least some moral claims, like murder is wrong, are facts, not opinions. And this means they're objective. They're true regardless of what we think about them. And the thing about objective statements is that they require a standard. When I say Bob is 6 feet tall, there must be some distance we call a foot in order for that statement to mean anything.
I'll actually agree. You say Bob is 6 feet tall, then we have to have an objective thing called feet. Well, objective thing's going to be a little bit tricky here, and I'll show you why in a moment. In order to do so, we humans made up the metric that is a feet. So if our morals are like that, then, and they need to be for this analogy to even matter, then they must be like feet. Humans made them. So that means we made morals. So that negates the need for anything other than humans. And so that negates your claims about it somehow proving God. We decided this is a foot. And the world's like, okay, I guess it'll make things easier if we all agree that that's a foot. So we did, for convenience sake. We could change it and say, oh, this is actually a foot now. And then it would change. The standard would have to change if we decided to do that. But we could do it. So it's objective, but only because we decided that it was objective. And we could decide that it isn't objective. So it's not really actually objective. It's just easier to think of it that way, perhaps. But the truth of it is subjective, at least to some degree. Now, we've written it in stone, so to speak. We've said, that, certain things are equal to molecular decay and things like this, so that we have a standard that doesn't change of weights and whatnot and measurements, because those are important in finances. But we could decide, oh, well, that's not good enough. We want something even more precise or whatever. But, again, we've done this for our own benefit. And, well, we made up that system. So we made up morals. If your analogy is tying these two things together, then we made up the objective standards for which we then can measure the rightness and wrongness of any given idea. So then it's not really objective, it's subjective coming from humans. That would negate your claims, wouldn't it? Oopsie.
When I say the sky is blue, there must be something we call blue in order for that statement to mean anything. In the same way, when I say it is good to give money to the poor, or it is not good, and not good is just what we mean by bad, to murder people, then what I'm doing is I'm appealing to an objective standard for goodness.
Okay, so you say the sky is blue, and that equals a blue color that humans have decided to call blue. We all agree that X is blue, and now that's what blue is, because that's how words work. We could change blue to blargle sauce, and now we could say, sky is a nice shade of blargle sauce today. And we can change those words around. So we could change morals around. That negates your claims. You say giving money to the poor is good. Well, what makes it good? You simply saying it's good doesn't make it so. You can say that you're appealing to an objective standard, but you'd have to show that you're appealing to an objective standard. Of course, what a poor person means also could change, because we can change words. What if there wasn't money? Then if by giving to the poor person, what if by giving to the poor person my money, I become poor myself. For example, maybe you didn't think this through here. Just let me go on this example here. Let's say I only have $1 and I give it to somebody who has $0. Now I have $0 and they have $1. But then they have to give me that because I am poor. But then I have to give it back because they're poor. And we just go on forever giving the money back and forth because we're trying to do what's objectively good. Perhaps that fundamental flaw in your analogy suggests that your claims should be something that we're perhaps skeptical about. Just an idea.
Goodness itself, we might call it, by which we measure things up to it to determine whether or not they're good. Now, think about goodness itself is it must also be being itself. That seems like a stretch, but
goodness must be being itself? What does that even mean? I don't know what the bleep you mean that by of words. What? Huh? What? What does that mean?
When we think about what the notion of goodness really means, we realize that goodness and existing, are interchangeable.
Goodness and existing are interchangeable. I don't know that you've thought that one out either. If I build, or well, in this case, I'm bringing into existence as best as I could bring something into existence, a bomb or a gun or a computer virus. In and of itself, that's just fine. Those things existing are good. What someone does with them, that's not up to me, right? Or is it that existing might not be something that you would want given the danger that those items might cause? You wouldn't want me to bring into an existence a bomb, gun, or a computer virus without some need to do that. So purely existing in and of itself can't just be good. That doesn't work. Otherwise, everything that exists is good, which wouldn't really make a lot of sense, would it? Like viruses. Oh, those are good. They exist. They're not good to me. So they're not beneficial in any way that I know of. Maybe we could find a way to use them, but you know. So what if existence is bringing pain for some creature? And the only way to end the pain is to stop that creature's existence. Of course, in this case, existence means life. So if ending the life would negate their pain, wouldn't that be good? But if existing is good or living is good, then it doesn't matter if they're in pain. Doesn't matter. You know. What if somebody's in pain all the time and has to be kept alive because to end their life would be considered murder under the law? And then the money to keep them alive was making somebody become poor. Well, now what? How do we resolve that problem? And perhaps you not dealing with those issues shows that your conclusion is not well thought out and perhaps not sound.
Thing is good to the extent that it exists in the way it's supposed to. That's why when we talk about bad things, we can really break down all bad things to a lack of some goodness that should be
there. Okay, so exists in the way that it's supposed to. Well, how do we know what a thing is supposed to exist as? It's a birth defect. Well, that's fine. There's no need to fix that. Or is it birth defect? That's not how it's supposed to exist. Then we kill them. Wait, no, that's murder. Wait, no, what if they're poor? Then give them money. And also, bad things equals a lack of goodness that should be there. What method do you suggest we use to figure that out? By the way, spoilers, he doesn't have any method for us to figure any of this out.
Blindness, for example, is a lack of sight that should be there. Vision.
Blindness is a lack of sight that should be there? Well, how do you know that? Maybe that was how that person was supposed to exist. Also, why would a god allow someone to be blind then? Where's God to keep his moral goodness going to ensure that no one has a lack of good? It seems like God isn't active in doing anything then. And it's up to us humans to try to rid someone of blindness. Seems like God isn't doing good if it's not preventing the good or getting rid of the bad. And that would negate your conclusion, wouldn't it?
Maliciousness is the lack of a virtue that should be there. Malice is a lack of love. And we could go on. Anytime we find some kind of evil, lack. That's why when we talk about bad things, we can really break down all bad things to a lack of some goodness that should be there. Blindness, for example, is a lack of sight that should be there. Viciousness is the lack of a virtue that should be there.
Okay, I wanted to rewind a bit because he kind of went forward before I was ready to respond. Okay, so viciousness. Well, but that's an emotion. Couldn't that be a good thing? Since existing, according to you, was good, then the emotion existing should be good then. So we should try to make sure that emotion exists. And in fact, we should try to make all the emotions exist as much as possible since existing is good. Unless, of course, viciousness makes you murder someone. Also, when they're dead, are they no longer poor? I mean, if you're dead, being poor isn't really a worry anymore. Do we have to give dead people money if they're poor? How does that work? I don't know.
Malice is a lack of love. And we could go on.
Oh no, not malice. Hey, everything that I said for the thing that I said before, just apply that, but to malice, I guess.
Anytime we find some kind of evil, what that really breaks down to is the absence of some good. And
all right, so every time that we encounter what we call evil, that's an absence of good then. So God must really be absent from our reality then.
That absence of good is really just the absence of some existence that should be there. So goodness and existence are interchangeable. So goodness itself must also be existence itself or being itself. And
I still have absolutely no idea what you mean by that. Goodness equals being. What does that mean? How do you arrive at that idea? Okay, but you know what? Fine. So the absence of goodness must suggest an absence of being. So God only exists where there's good, if God is good. But it doesn't exist where there's a lack of good. So God only exists where there is good and not where there isn't good. But maybe we don't even need the word God at all, because that just seems to complicate matters. And there might be some other issues with this odd idea that badness is a lack of being. Like, does that mean black holes are creating badness by just eating things into non-being? Or do they still exist in the quantum tunnel thingy that those, not quantum tunnel, sorry, I don't know, whatever the heck said, a black hole thingy, the singularity of a black hole, whatever, quantum singularity, same thing, whatever. I don't understand black holes, but yeah, they suck things in and make them really small in gravity of. And so is that doing something bad? Is black holes bad or black holes good? I don't know. How does this work? Oh, okay, anyways. Yeah, so anyways.
And if any of you have seen my previous videos, you might know where I'm going with this, because when we really
I don't need to see your videos to know where you're going with this. I am familiar with plenty of apologetic arguments that have done the exact same thing that you're doing now, and will continue to do the same broken arguments again and again, recycling them ad infinitum, because I guess apologists don't have any new arguments to offer. I guess. I mean, that's my conclusion drawn on the data I have, as limited as it might be. Anyways, all right, back to the broken argument.
really think about what the definition of God is.
Okay, the definition of God is that doesn't matter, because it's a matter of subjective viewpoint. That's what you say God is. What you say God isn't, but you have to show that before it could be known. So all this would be is a logical fallacy of appeal to definition. So here, this is what God's defined as, according to whatever definition that I have. Therefore, it must, God is defined as the thing that must exist. Oh, okay, well then God exists then. But no, you can't just say that that's what it is. You have to demonstrate that that's what it is. It's There's a difference there. So you're doing a logical fallacy. And so because you performed a logical fallacy, then you have to hold your conclusions in question on what God is or not. That is to say, we can't be sure that you're right about what God is or isn't, because you're appealing to a definition, which is a logical fallacy. So logical fallacy means your conclusion, we don't know if it's true or not anymore. So you need to do a lot better than that. You won't, but I'm just saying you would need to.
We can break it down to this notion of infinite being itself.
Infinite being in itself. Yeah, that's nice. Prove that's a thing.
We just said goodness itself is. Why is this? Well, because infinite being can't lack anything. So it must have, in addition to having all goodness, it must have all power, and it must have all knowledge.
Why?
That's what's included in the notion of infinite being.
Okay, so he's just saying things and not proving them. So I don't care. I'd like you to prove these things, not just assert them.
Not lacking anything. It also must be the cause of everything else that has being.
Why?
As the source and standard for being. In the same way, goodness is the source and standard for goodness.
But why would it not also need to be made by some other thing that... Oh, never mind.
So, infinite being is a cause of all that is. It's all-knowing. It's all-powerful. It's all good. It's also personal because it's able to cause things.
It is?
It also must be immaterial.
What?
Because matter is necessarily limiting, and infinite being...
Matter is limiting? Why? Why wouldn't it be all matter? If it's all everything else, why wouldn't it be all of matter, including antimatter? Why would it have to be something that isn't even a thing that something can be, which is made of nothingness? How could anything be made of nothingness? How can it not be a thing? When you say it lacks material, you're saying it doesn't exist anymore.
It can't be limited. It must also be outside of time, because...
Outside of time? What does that mean? Time is a period from the moment just now to the moment just now. So if you're outside of that, then you can't do anything. You have to have some time to do a thing in. So this is just saying there is no where and no when for God to be. Good job. You just negated God. Well done.
Time is a limit, so it must be beyond that limit as well. So goodness itself, which we said must exist as a standard in order for any moral statements to be facts, which we said some of them have to be.
Well, you said that they have to be, but you never demonstrated that they are. You just said that they have to be. You offered zero demonstrations of why. All you've done is assert. You haven't proven anything.
This thing must be all good, all-knowing, all-powerful, infinite, personal, immaterial, timeless, and the creator of all that is.
Yeah, okay.
And that's God.
If you say so.
When I was in third...
you can't just appeal to a definition and say that's... Because that's the lobsteress. The lobsteress, the Lod, L-O-D, is now God, because I can say the same claims about that. So it doesn't prove anything. Okay, so as a bonus round, now I don't know that he's Christian or not. I have no idea because he doesn't bother to tell us. This is just a vague channel about God, whatever God is. I don't know. Which God? Which version of God? The Abrahamic God? The Hindu God? I don't know, because this definition of God doesn't really apply to certain God concepts. So I don't know. What about goddesses? I don't know. Anyways, so, well, just in case he might be Christian, I'm guessing because that's the norm. Leviticus 11:9 through 12 says that anything you eat that's from the water that doesn't have fins or scales is wrong. So that's an objective moral. So my question would be, what makes that wrong? God said it was wrong, but why is it wrong? Like, what makes it wrong? Is it wrong because God says to not do it or to do it? Or is it just wrong on its own? If it's wrong on its own, then you don't need God to say it. But if it's only wrong when God says it, then that's subject to at least God's whims. And how do you know that God's whims are actually true? other than just saying that they're objectively defined that way. But then you can never question if God is correct or not. In fact, you can make no judgment about what God is or isn't saying to you to do, which would lead to some pretty nasty results. Like if your God said, hey, killing those people, that's really, really good to do. It's not murder because murder is illegal killing. See, this is legal killing. So go kill them because that's the best thing you could do. Meanwhile, they're like, hey, our God told us that killing you is a really good thing to do. Oh, I guess we have to kill each other then. And then you go and you kill each other until one of you is completely dead and then the other one wins. And I guess that's the real God that wins in the end. And yeah, well, that's kind of how religion works, isn't it? Yeah, it's just But now in our modern day, we have, in place of attacking each other and to death, thankfully, we've moved, hopefully, beyond that into the realm of words. And when we use words to attack other words, that is called informal logic, and also might be called formal logic depending on how you use it. But nonetheless, and to do proper logic, well, requires you to understand logic. Duh, obviously. And to be able to identify the fallacies, like I mentioned at least one, which was an appeal to definition. So if you don't know how to do that and you want to learn, well, I could point you to some resources. I can try to help you the best as I can. But yes, you should definitely know how to do that so that you know when you're making a bad argument. And once it has been pointed out to you that you've made a bad argument, you should be willing and able to correct it. Hey, even me, as awesome as I am, may have at one point been pointed out that I was made a bad argument of. But it doesn't count because reasons, and I don't talk about it, except that I did mention it, but we're all going to pretend that that never happened. Anyways, so yes, you didn't offer us anything, but you did explain, I guess, this argument, kind of, but I don't know that it needed this long to explain. Basically, you could have said it like this. If there's a God, then good is really real. And if there isn't a God, then good isn't really real. And we really want good to be really real, so there must be a God. That's what the argument is, right? Okay, maybe it's a straw man construct of the argument, but I'm going to have fun with that because why not? Yes. So, of course, this brings about all the problems of divine command theory with it because, well, how do you know what is or isn't good? Just God saying it's good, that can't be enough. You can't just appeal to authority, no matter how great that authority is, to decide what is right or wrong. What's interesting about this, good old William Lane Craig, and maybe I should talk about his whole fiasco with justifying genocide. That was fun, even though others have covered it far better than I could. I think B.S. Lewis and Dark Matter have both covered that to my satisfaction, but maybe I'll talk about it at some point. I don't know. No promises. And he goes about essentially justifying something that I think is unjustifiable, which is genocide. They were told to move, so they had plenty of time to move. Well, they don't want to move. Oh, God's telling you to move. What proof do we have that it's God? It doesn't matter. We're coming to get you. Oh, I can't think of anybody that was harmed. They were harmed by being told to move. That's harm. What are they going to do for living? Well, I guess since they're poor, we have to give them money. And all right. Bonus content, because I'm done with this. And, I feel like there should be some sort of more because I haven't wasted an hour yet. So why not? Yeah, so maybe I'll just rename this video. No, I won't. I won't rename this video. Yeah. So I wrote on this particular, on my community thing. I don't know if you guys, girls, robots, etc., read this or not. But I wrote this thing and I thought, and I said, maybe I'll talk about it. So this video by Sargon of Akkad, who you may or may not know about. This guy, he talks about stuff. I mean, I guess that's the way to put that, he talked about Dawkins and the church and the death of the church, and so I had some things to say about the video. And here's what I had to say about it, which I'll read now, and then I'll be done with this video. Maybe. The wave of reason never ends. Atheists, skeptics, we're all human. We do not know what the consequence will be. We only know we want something better than what was. But we do have to offer a replacement. We just don't want to go to a church. That's boring. But we'll have to make it something else. We have to buy the buildings. We have to host events that non-believers would enjoy. And I'm anti-social justice / woke. And well, maybe I should actually rephrase that because I don't know if I'm full. It's like anti certain ideas of those ideas. You know, you have to have nuance there. So I brushed a bit broadly on that. So please note that I'm not completely anti-social justice or woke or whatever the bleep those words even mean now, which I don't even know anyways. But if they're not based on reason, evidence, or facts, but on feelings, then I'm against whatever the bleep it is. Maybe I should have said that instead. I'm going to rewrite this. Anyway, I don't want any religion, but that's just me. Others want it or need it. But we have to then have a good religion, and I don't know what that would look like. And I don't know, because constructing that, no matter how much we would put reason or science or whatever into it, it could become just as bad, if not something worse. We're evolving as a species, and perhaps we're moving away from classical religion into something that will be a new religion, built from the internet's memes. You can't destroy the meme, you can only change it to something else. Religion is a meme. What will it become? No one can know. I object to religion, broadly speaking. I see some minor value in some traditions, but to a limit. I see Fiddler on the Roof as a cautionary tale. Here's a man willing to give up one tradition after the other for his daughters, all but one. He can't give up that tradition. It's encoded into the religion. It's blasphemy of God to do that. It kills him inside not to do it. So she's dead. He doesn't have a daughter anymore, but he does. He isn't there to say goodbye when she goes, but he loves her. Even as he tells himself he loves God or tradition more. It's that sort of messed up choice that I don't want to ever to happen to anyone again. It should be clear the choice is your daughter, not the God, not their tradition. The love you have is more valuable than that. Family breaking apart because of faith / tradition, people getting married or divorced because of religion, people hating others and using religion to justify it, that's the stuff I want purged. The belief in God, as long as it could just be belief, I'd be okay with it. But people don't say that. They don't just believe it's useful, but not real. They say that they believe in God rather than they believe that God is a useful concept. One has to be used with caution, as it can lead to disaster. God is a meme. And if they could accept that, they could forward that notion, and I'd be all for it. But I have to speak out on the logical errors of apologetics. They're still making the broken arguments. Those have to change. I'm fighting for that change in my humble and silly way, not knowing if it will be for the best of worlds, but hoping it will be, knowing that logic saved me, bringing me to reason, something I lacked a long time. But I have to contend with emotion, as we all do. It's a balance. It will change. Memes must. I'm just trying to help it change. What will come next? No idea. We'll see. May logic and reason guide us all. And I said, what do you think about that video? Let me know. Perhaps I'll make a video and read all this and ask there as well. Hopefully you will not just tell me in chat. Oh, I thought I also added a thing where I would be like, and I'm going to read this out loud and blah, 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 whatever. Oh, well. So yeah, that's in response to this Sargon of Akkad video about like the last church dying or whatever. Hitchens apparently was like, if there was one church left, he wouldn't like try to deconvert the last guy or whatever, because it's like, I don't know, there's some value there or something. I don't know. I'm like, look, you know, It's like, oh, it looks pretty. I'm like, yeah, it's just a building. Whatever. Buildings can look pretty. Things can look nice without them having to be like magical. Um, and I think that religion has gripped many of my otherwise fellow atheist, skeptical people out there. And religion might even grip me in the sense of any idea can become something that you're not willing or able to challenge, or at least not readily able to do so. It's very difficult. When you think that you're right, then that's it. Conversations, that's it. You're right. How could you possibly be wrong? And it just feels right to be right, and it feels wrong to be wrong. So you can't be wrong. And none of us are immune to that. And a couple of people I know of made videos somewhat lately delving into politics, and both of them were painted with such a broad brushstroke. Like I was saying earlier, I was like, yeah, maybe I wrote that as I shouldn't. Rethinking what I wrote, because it's not nuanced enough. I'm saying something that I don't quite mean in the way that it might come out. In my head it sounded different. You know what I'm saying? And so you say all the Republicans are this, all the Democrats are that, all this is bad, all that is bad. Show me one Republican that does this good thing, or show me one Democrat that does this good thing, or whatever. And it's like, that's not my burden. That's your burden to show. Not they're all not thinking the same way. That's wrong too. That's like bigoted or something. It's not racism, because everybody, they select a side to be on. But this whole party thing and all this, it's just a big mess. And does it matter in the end what I personally think about any of those things? Or does it matter what you think? And somebody, even if they have 1 million followers on YouTube or whatever, that doesn't necessarily translate to real world politics. And a few people have tried to run for politics having big followers and see that the big numbers don't translate to votes. Not necessarily. Maybe we should change the system where we don't vote for a party or a person, but vote on the one subject that we want something to be focused on. Like, hey, fix environment, whatever that, decrease carbon emissions by doing this thing that's really fiddly and technical, and here's what we think that might lead to if we do it, and what it won't lead to if we don't do it in this way, and this is what you're voting that you support that idea. Maybe that's way too nuanced. Maybe there'd be too many things to vote on then. I don't know. But it might be better than the system we have. But how do we even get a new system into play? I don't know. I'm not an activist. I have no idea where you'd even start to try to get a different system than the system we have put into play and be utilized. I guess you'd have to show that it's functional and that it would work. So that would be one thing you'd have to do if you were interested in doing it. But all we're doing when we're debating, arguing with loved ones or family that has different political opinions, that's all we're doing is fighting over opinions. It's like the moral thing. It's like, look, I say that you're murdering a baby that's unborn. They had somebody told me about a case that they had in some state where somebody had I don't know if it was deliberate or accidental, but they knocked over a bunch of already fertilized human embryos, eggs, and so they were convicted of manslaughter. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, because they were planned to be babies. Those were going to go into people to become babies. So it's basically like they bumped into a pregnant woman or several pregnant women and made them have an abortion by doing so. You would also be, in legal trouble for that. So, but it was like, but it's different, but it's not, because technology, and so it's not like a clear answer on what I think about abortion. It's like, or when life starts, or what a human even is, or any. It's like I don't know. Why are you asking me? No expert. But all these things are our own personal views on how things ought to be, and ultimately we base that on our own personal experience and what we see around us and what we think would be the best way to run things. And we have no idea that it would be, but we think that. We all think that. Otherwise, we wouldn't argue so passionately. But we have to remember, if we are going to argue, and we will, that instead of using erratic dialogue, which is where you throw words at each other in efforts to knock each other down, that we attack the ideas and not the person, that we use logic and reason to try to persuade, not to diminish. We offer constructive criticism rather than deconstructive criticism. If you want me, personally, myself, to vote one way or the other, or to vote at all, you're going to need a valid and sound argument, not one based on emotion. I don't care. Oh, if you do this, the world's going to end. Okay. And you would need to prove that it's going to end, but you'd also need to give me a non-emotional reason. Anyways, some mussing there at the end, because bad argument for God made my brain do that. So I blame this video, and hopefully maybe something I said was interesting to you and made you think about something. Or if you want to ask me a question or comment on anything I've said or didn't say or wrote or didn't write, leave that in the comment section so I can respond to you. And if you don't, then you suck. And that's just it. I don't need to prove that you suck. I can just make claims like that. Maybe you don't really suck, but you're not as cool as you could be. There you go. That's better. That's a better insult to maybe get you to comment. But you're not going to comment, and I know you're not, because I say these sort of things at the thing, and the people don't do the thing. Why don't they comment? I need the comments. Ugh, why? Why do I have to beg for comments? It's like, yeah, it's morally reprehensible to not give people comments. Why am I fading out? Oh, it's the end of the video.